Welcome to the journey. May this space inspire you to ask questions, explore the unknown, and most importantly, to awaken. This is the Library of Awakening. Yeah, so I encourage you guys today to conversate, to share and engage in conversation if you can. If you have a bunch of background noise, then that's cool, it's understandable. You guys can always engage in the chat as well. I'll try to monitor it more frequently. But nonetheless, we're gonna just get through today's book club link up, and we're going to pick up where we left off last week. Last week, we had voted in the book club section on this book here, which we're going to again do today. So make sure that you guys have a book that you want to recommend. I personally already have mine. We might actually even take care of that sooner than we did last time. But the book that we voted on last week was The God Man, the Word Made Flesh. So we're going to just recap on that this week, go over some highlights that people that did the homework had. I'll share mine first just to get the conversation flowing, and then whoever wants to have the floor next, and we can bounce ideas and engage off of each other after what I say, which is what I hope happens. Like I mentioned, there's no structures on these calls because I want you guys to feel like there's no, restraints. I want it to just kind of flow how the conversation flows. But this is the book here that we read. God Man, the Word Made Flesh by Dr. George W. Carey from 1920. So over 100 years ago, this book was published. I really have been liking and enjoying some of the books that Break Free from the Matrix has shared. Shout out to Break Free for sharing all these phenomenal books. But books that were written from like the early 18 to mid 18, late 18, early 1900s. I've been reading, I think like the last maybe 10 books that I've dove into have all been over 100 years old. And I said something over on my X account, and it's like the older the knowledge gets that I look into, the deeper the roots get. It's pretty crazy. So I encourage you guys to open some of these texts and peel back some of the pages in them because they are deep. This one was very deep. Show of hands, how many people on the call right now did the homework? I know Al did, I know Break Free did, and I know Camille did. Anybody else do the homework? Just so we can see how many people.
I listened. I didn't get to like take screenshots and stuff, but I definitely listened. It was great.
Cool, no worries. Yeah, and then also too, Wolf, I don't think she's on the call today, but Wolf also shared the audio book. Um, Camille, we were discussing and talking about, and you had a really great kind of like breakdown, in a sense, a little tiny summary of what this book consists of. Would you mind sharing that? What you were talking about,
Sure,
how this book talks about like the, go ahead.
sure. I could go more in details later, but from my understanding of what I read from this book was kind of similar to the previous book we had last week, meaning um, we are so powerful. We are God in a sense that we are made of the same. Um, I mean, you got me like that. Sorry, guys. I think what the concept of this book says that we all the Bibles, all the book that we see are literally talking about the human body and how divine we are. And this book breaks down exactly how divine we are. Like each word in the Bible, for example, has a mechanical meaning of our body. So it goes back to the fact that we are a divine machine. And if we don't know this divine machine, then salvation is it will never happen. Salvation is right now. And this book is kind of a breakdown on how to get down to this salvation we can reach now. And there's some tips with a lot of astrological stuff. I think people understood that astrology is the science of the God. And so the science of the God is within us. And these books explain how, kind of.
That's good. Yeah, I like that. I like the two actually things that I highlighted in this book, I think, well, three, I highlighted three, but the two that correlate to what you were saying is this first portion here before I share my overall portion. But to cap on that, it says here, books rejected by the Council of the Nicaea, and I've talked about the Council of the Nicaea before and how they restructured, you know, just I don't want to give people my personal opinion on it. It's just better if you go and look into it yourself because this isn't a personal opinion channel, but um, the restructuring of certain portions of the Bible and certain gods taken out of certain contexts and things restructured and the year in which that all happened and who was at that and who attended that meeting, you know, studying the Council of the Nice is very important, but it talks about the books like the Quran, um, what else? The Egyptian Book of the Dead, Adam and Eve, Enoch, Seth, the seventh book of Moses. So all these books that Camille was just talking about, it talks about each of these ones, and it says down here, all these original sources all agree hundreds, if not thousands, of ancient manuscripts, tablets, and carvings indubitably prove that all races of people that have ever inhabited the earth have striven as best they could to leave records of the chemistry and physiology or physiology, excuse me, of their own bodies, right? So that was,
Yeah. And I think on the same page, they say science, Egyptology, Indo-Iranian, Chinese, Japanese, Persian, Sanskrit, all forever strove to solve the riddles of the human body. It's on page 18 on my thing. I don't
page
know.
18.
But it says
Mm.
page 44 at the bottom of the book.
Oh, okay. Hold on. Give me a
Yeah, I don't,
keyword. Give me a keyword to search.
66 I put.
Okay.
And they said all the 66 books that you just named right now are actually all an allegory of the human body and its mechanisms. Yeah, I think you were at the right one. That's fine.
This one shows that the 66 books of the whole book were 66 statements by 66 different writers about the same identical subject, the human body.
And its chemical operation and the planetary position in whatever this word to create and bring physical manifestation to the visible universe. To be God and to create your life, matter and spirit in this book says that are just one. I mean, yeah, you create with your thoughts, your reality.
Yeah, that's crazy. It's so deep. It's so deep when you think about it like that, right? You know what else is crazy too is that, well, outside of all the books that it gives you, because, I like that it gives you this list of books to study. Like, not many people have heard of some of these books. It even says here some of the oldest books known, or the oldest book known, the Kabbalah, right? How many people walking around in their everyday life have studied that stuff, let alone even know that some of these books exist? Um, but I continued to come down here, and this was a portion where kind of I don't want to read this entire thing because it's quite lengthy. I mean, I can if you guys want me to. It's only maybe a page and a half, but it talks about the pineal gland and it talks about the journey of Joseph and Mary and how it correlates to the pineal gland and the kind of just, spiritual complex that's within us as human beings. And it relates to the story of Joseph and Mary. So I thought that that was cool. I highlighted that. The portion that I want to primarily go over is this one. This one is probably the piece that stuck with me, I'd say the most out of the entire book. And I got to like page 100 and maybe 12. I didn't read the entire thing. I mean, obviously, of course, it's Friday. We dropped the book last Friday. So reading one book in a week compared to all the other stuff I soak up is pretty challenging. So, I mean, I got to page 112 and I finished maybe like, I think I got to about 2 hours and maybe like 15 minutes or something like that into the audio book. And the audio book's freaking 6 hours. So I did a little bit of a digging. But out of all the things that I highlighted and paid attention to, this was probably the one that I stuck to the most. And I wrote a little piece about it. And I have kind of some questions that I feel like will get the conversation juices flowing. So I'm going to read this and then I'll write or read my response and then ask you guys a question based off my response. And then I'll leave the floor open. Man has turned the mighty power he possesses to every object and principle of force in the universe except himself. The greatest miracle of all. When man focuses his divine thinking lens upon himself, he will realize that he is an epitome of unlimited cosmic energy. Then the heavens will roll together as a scroll and reveal the real man as the Lamb of God that taketh away the sins of the world. So this was just, I mean, this one verse right here hit where it says, man has attributed the mighty power he possesses to every object and principle of force in the universe except himself. That's powerful. Okay. So what I wrote in regards to this was, first off, admitting, obviously, of course, because I like to be and show humility, that I'm no better than anybody else and that we all have our faults and mistakes. And so I really hope that you guys have enjoyed that aspect about me, that I've never put myself of a hierarchy over anybody because I have a certain set of skills that somebody else might not, or whatever the case may be. I'm just a man and I learn and, transform just like you guys do. But I said, if I'm honest, I've done this. I've done the same, you know. It's easier to analyze charts than to analyze ego. I've been there before. Easier to study macro trends than to study your own reactions. Been there before. And easier to talk about power than to actually embody it. Turning the lens inward isn't comfortable, right? People, and including myself, have been in positions where taking the more comfortable route is not only easier, but, you know, we as human beings are naturally inclined to put ourselves in a state of comfort. And as soon as life tests that or something happens in your immediate vicinity that takes you out of that comfortable zone, it's almost like natural human instinct for you to do everything in your power to get back to that comfort zone. And real growth happens when you break free from that and you step out of that comfort zone. You learn new things, you experience new things, and you make mistakes and you learn from those mistakes. When you really observe yourself, you start seeing patterns that you didn't notice before. The impatiences, the pride disguised as confidence, the fear dressed up as logic, or the moments where emotion moves before discipline does. And that's the real battlefield. We think power is external, things like money, influence, positioning, knowledge. But the greatest edge that I've ever seen in markets, I mean, and I wrote this like kind of oriented towards markets, of course, because I'm a trader. But I said the greatest edge that I've ever seen in markets and in life is internal stability. So I'm going to highlight that key vocabulary word and I'm going to come back to that and ask you guys a question that I want you to engage with. The person who can master their impulses outlasts the person who cannot. This passage specifically talks about realizing that we are unlimited energy. At first, that sounds abstract, but if you strip it down, it's saying something very direct, that you are more capable than you've been conditioned to believe. Most limitations are learned. That is very important to understand about yourself, that most of the things that are holding you back in life have been learned over time by your parents, by your structure, by your work, by whatever overhead you've had up until the point in age that you're currently existing on this earth in. We're trained to look outward for permission, for direction, for validation, even for salvation. But maybe the world doesn't change because of one grand event, which I personally don't think it does, and it won't. Maybe it changes when individuals decide to take responsibility for their inner world, right? Imagine if everybody on earth just woke up tomorrow and started working on themselves, becoming better individuals, and obviously, of course, in an attempt for that to reflect in the betterment of the all. The world would change in a snap of a finger. Seriously, it would. If every single human being, statistically speaking, woke up tomorrow and aimed to take one step forward for the betterment of the entire human race, a lot of stuff would change. For me, this isn't theory. If I can't control my emotions and volatility, what good is my knowledge? That's a question I was asking myself and reflecting on this comment from this book or this quote from this book. The second one is, if I speak about discipline but operate impulsively, what am I building? It's the second question I asked myself. The real work becomes daily. It's quiet. It's repetitive. Remember, I've told you guys, if you want to become successful traders or successful at anything in life, most of the work happens when no one's looking. So how you act when no one's around you is a direct reflection of your outcomes of your success, of your achievements and your goals, your life in general. And I've always tried to tell you guys to act like somebody's watching, right? To trade like somebody with credentials is leaning over your shoulder and telling you, hey, look, not a good idea. The real work is routine. The real work is correcting yourself. It's awareness. It's choosing growth over comfort. Like I mentioned, the greatest miracle might not be something happening externally. It might be the moment you realize you've been searching for power everywhere except within yourself. And once that realization clicks, everything starts to move differently. So coming back up to here, I'll ask you guys this question. You guys can put it in the chat and I can read them out loud, or you can unmute and you can give me your vocabulary phrase. But I said here, the greatest edge I've ever seen in markets and in just life in general, it doesn't have to be market related, is internal stability. So what key vocabulary word or characteristic trait or key phrase would you put? Let's come up with maybe three as a community together that would help somebody work on internal stability so that they can give themselves the edge, right? The one that I would put, so I'll put the first one to get the conversation going, and then you guys can think of one to help someone develop internal stability, or what would help someone develop internal stability is self-awareness. I feel like
And
self-awareness. Go
I was
ahead.
going to say observation.
You were going to say what?
Observation, like observe yourself.
Yeah, great. That goes hand in hand. Self-awareness, observation, right? Having the ability to observe your thoughts without, immediately becoming them, you know, like, dang, I'm angry, but not reacting in or with an actual physical angry action, right?
Not being identified by the emotion.
Yeah. Notice your emotions without letting them control you, right? Recognizing things like patterns in your behavior instead of repeating them unconsciously. Self-awareness requires that you ask things like, why did that trigger me? You know, or why did I react this way? Is this fear or is this, factual reaction? Like self-awareness is just, it's almost like if you don't have awareness, there's no growth. With awareness, everything becomes workable. You start figuring things out because you're aware of it. So I feel like self-awareness would be the number one thing. Camille, go ahead.
I think in the book they mention the fragmentation of the inner self, like knowing that we have different personality in us. Like you're not the same as when you talk to your wife, that when you talk to your kid, that when you talk to your boss, you have a lot of different inner I that are not always taking control at the same time, and being able to observe, like Cypress said, when you have this different type of personality showing up and just being able to observe them.
What about, because you said, what are you said in between there, not being able to what? You said something there that made me think of a word. What did you
I
say in
said
between then?
in between what and what?
So the word that I'm thinking of with what you just said is detachment.
I said, yeah, it's very good. Identified, I said, but detachment is really good.
Like, I guess the way that you were just describing what you were talking about, like having the ability to experience life without being consumed by it.
Yeah, it's very good as well. Detachment of, yeah. It's a bit like, I think Christian said something in the past in Third Eye, so like something like that. She said a reaction and a response. And that goes hand in hand with detachment. The way when you react, it's impulse, it's emotion. And when you respond, it's you've been able to analyze your thoughts, realize that, for example, you're angry. Cool, I'm angry. Right. Do I want to act on it? No. Yes. So that goes with detachment. Like react and respond are
I
two
like
different
what
things.
I like what Vince said in the chat. I think this will be the last one since nobody else unmuted. He said self-accountability. And I think that goes hand in hand. To put a key vocabulary word to that would be discipline, right? Internal stability. Um, you know, what does that come from? It comes from structure, discipline, self-accountability, choosing long-term alignment over hold on, let me mute you guys. I don't know why I'm echoing. What was I saying? Long-term alignment over like short-term emotion, right? It's kind of like doing what's right even when you don't feel like doing it. Maintaining things like routines that strengthen your nervous system and your mind, you know, like self-accountability. How many times have you done this? I know I have, where I know I need to get up in the morning early and I know I need sleep and I still stay up too late, knowing that I need to get up the next day and then the next day rolls over and I snooze my alarm clock. We've all been there. I'm not perfect, just little tiny things like that. Self accountability falls in line with that. Anyways, those were three good ones, I think. What did we say? We said self awareness, right? I think that was the first one. Um, Detachment falls in line with what Camille was talking about. And then Vince threw in there self accountability, and that falls in line with discipline. So, that's all that I had for my homework for today's share. I'll open the floor, and if anybody else wants to share, if anybody else wants to go over what they, discovered in this book or what stood out to them, the floor is open. I'll let the room breathe for a second, and we can pull up your stuff, or you can share your screen, whatever way that you guys want to go about that. And then while you guys are listening in, I'll just post it his. For anybody listening in, we're going to do a pick on 4 books for next week's homework. So if you guys want to gather those, we can pull some of those up after the next one or two people speak, and then we can cut it short. Um, so anybody else? Al, you want to go ahead, or Camille, you want to go ahead? You're more than welcome.
I mean, I could go ahead all night about this book. This book is so deep. It talks about the mechanical of the human body and astrology, so I love it. And everything talks about just that. I just want to say there's a funny fact about astrology where society changed it again to just manipulate people. We used to have 13 signs, and which is not easy to calculate because it's not fixed. So each year the calendar will change and everything will be difficult to trace. But in the book, they mention that if you know this sign, then you apply the moon change sign every couple of days. On a day where your sun sign is, this is where the book talks about you can bring the Christos, the holy oil from all the way from your sternum, your all the way up to your third eye. And that's happening. It's easy to calculate for people who want to know, but you can yourself do that. And all the books explain what you can do actually with just this oil going up and down your brain. This is all about the Bible, is about actually, but um people who wants to know how to do that, you can help yourself healing, you can help yourself like just expanding your mind. It's actually really deep, and that's why all the books been talking about just that.
I want to
The
read this. I want to read this portion because it goes, I feel like, hand in hand with what you're saying. The journey of Joseph and Mary, a marvelous story of the journey of Joseph and Mary to Jerusalem to pay their taxes, psychologically explained. On either side of the thalamus in the head is a gland known in psychology as the pineal. On the posterior and the pituitary on the anterior side of the thalamus. The pineal is a cone shaped and secretes Sorry, let me reread that. The pineal, I'm like thinking that says secrets. The pineal gland is a cone shaped and secretes a yellow golden fluid. The pituitary body opposite it is ellipsoid in shape and contains a whitish secretion like milk. The fluids that are found in both these bodies come from the same source, namely the claustrum, which means barrier or cloister, and is referred to as cloister for the very good reason that a precious and holy thing is secreted or secluded there. Santa Claus or Santa Claus is another term for this precious fluid, which is indeed a holy gift in the body of each one of us. The precious fluid which flows down from the claustrum separates part going into the pineal gland and part to the pituitary rebody. And these being special laboratories of the head differentiate the fluid from the claustrum and it takes on the colors above mentioned. And the pineal gland becomes yellow and has electric properties. The pituitary body, having the milk-like fluid, has magnetic properties. These two glands are the male and female, the Joseph and Mary of the physical body, and are parents of the spiritual son born in the solar plexus of each human being, commencing about the age of 12. The yellow and white material, which is the milk and honey referred to in the Bible, the children of Israel having been given the promise of a return to this land flowing with milk and honey, at least reaches the solar plexus via semilunar ganglia, the Beth or the Bethlehem of the physical body, and the Hebrew. Bethlehem means house. Beth of bread, lehem. I am the bread of life, said the allegorical Jesus. And the solar plexus is the thimble-shaped depression, a cave or manger, and this is deposited the psychological or psychophysical seed or holy child born of this immaculate conception. This psychophysical seed is also called the fish, as it has the odor of fish and is formed in the midst of the waters, the pure water. Jesus is a fish in the midst of the waters, St. Augustine. Before the birth of human fetus floats. Before birth, the human fetus floats like a fish in the fluids by which it is surrounded. And as it is with the child formed on the generative plane, so it is with the spiritual child born in the solar plexus, the Bethlehem. Joseph and Mary, by furnishing the material for the spiritual child, which was to redeem the child or body formed in generation, paid the symbolic redemption money. The Holy Ghost, Greek for breath, the breath descending the pneumogastric nerve into the solar center, enters the manger where Joseph and Mary are, and where Jesus is the seed literally conceived by the Holy Ghost. Yeah, this book is freaking deep. But this highlight here goes hand in hand with what you're talking about, how this book shows that
Yeah, each
these
name is a part of the body and just explain the sci it's funny how religion is so scientific and if you ask a religious that they are scientific, they will shout at you, which is quite funny.
now I'm thinking about somebody shouting at you.
Oh God, kill them.
Graham, go ahead, my friend.
No, sorry, bro. I pressed it by accident, but I meant to just send a laughing emoji.
Yeah. Anybody else wanna share what they had written? And you guys are more than welcome to share your screen. I pulled mine back up, but Camille, if you wanted to share, or if Al, or if anybody else wanted to share today, you guys are more than welcome to pull your screen up and screen share. Um,
I'll chime in. I'm not really in a mindset to talk, but whatever. Just a rough week. Uh, Pretty much that post you made, Cypress, just this morning about this passage that you read. I think by far it's of everything I've read that you've written, that nails it. It's the number one post so far. And I don't know if it's coincidental that it just speaks to me about what I went through this week or what. But last week I was kind of on cloud nine on my trading journey of just oh my gosh, it's all coming together. And on the positive side, I let that go to my head. So my routines, kind of went to the wayside of just like, maybe I don't need to be this strict with my life. Anyways, this new week, everything has gone wrong, and um, there's no, question whether it's external or just me. It's me, but I can't believe how much has gone wrong because I let go of that inner stability that I'd been maintaining and building up for week upon week upon week. And so I won't say an easy fix. It's just like, oh, the very three things that we said, self-awareness, detachment, and then ultimately you do those two things, you know what's wrong. So number three is then just accountability. Fix it. And easier said than done, but be accountable to yourself, and you'll get through this. So that's kind of where I'm at. And then that post that you put up, so many parts of it just like speak to me. And anyways, thank you for posting that.
100%,
The
man.
little bit that I added, which was kind of like me just doing my homework on the way to class. When last week I opened up this book and I started diving into it, and maybe this was the start of it. Like Friday, I really loved the chat that we had and had traded well that day, and just anyways, didn't work out later that day. And anyways, my point is I started reading this book and I couldn't get into it. It was obvious you needed a level of focus to start deciphering what it's actually saying, and not just kind of white noising like, oh, I'm just being preached at about I don't know, Bible stuff or whatnot. And but I was like, oh, there's like all these in the table of contents. There's so many like little interesting gems, and I just knew I wasn't in the right headspace to read this. I came back at it a few days later, and suddenly I had the eyes to see, and I was like, oh wow, there's a lot of amazing things in this book. And I felt an easy chapter would just be like, okay, let's talk about Santa Claus. I kind of know the story and whatnot, um, like what this is going to tell me, and it did. And to me, one of my struggles of if I'm really going to shed this skin and ascend it to the next one, and I'm not really going to get into it because this is going to be a public video, but I know what I need to overcome and let go of moving forward. And a component of that also has to do with this Santa Claus quote, the colostrum, the oil, the holy oil, which, unless I sort out my bad patterns in my life, I will never be able to um, reap the benefits of this holy oil. So it's quite the big deal. And I'm at a crossroads of just do I want to ascend or fall back asleep and crawl back into the matrix, whatever, however you want to say it.
You can't fall back asleep, I'm telling you.
Okay. Well,
That's not a position that you can take. You can't forget what you know already.
okay. Well, falling from grace, however you want to say it, I'm not living up to the ideals I know I could and should be. But with that said, if and maybe who knows how people interpret info and stuff. But a few months ago, the first time I came across this concept of um, all these esoteric texts talking about this holy oil was this video break free posted in Third Eye, um, literally about this very thing. And it's like 15 minutes, and I watched it. It absolutely blew my mind. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is it. This is what it's all about. And anyways, I linked that with the post that I just put up. And I would encourage everybody to go check that video, because I'm assuming uh, that'll give you a 15-minute condensed course on probably what this entire book is about. or at least a vast majority of what this book is about, which being tapping in, doing the right practices in life where that holy oil does um, the full root cycle through your body. And I know it's a big claim, like Camille kind of said, uh, you'll get benefits of health benefits, focus, clarity, greater understanding. I wouldn't be surprised when we see passages in those books that certain people in the Bible lived hundreds of years and stuff like this. Uh, I'll bet if someone legitimately was tapping into this or getting their 12 doses a year, uh, you're gonna live for decades, centuries, maybe, who knows? Like it's legit. This is the blueprint to this physical entity that we're inhibiting, and how to keep that machine or this body running almost indefinitely is tapping into the holy oil. Anyways, I feel like I'm rambling a little bit, but
You said something good. Were you just talking about living hundreds of years old? I don't know if I posted it on the freaking Library of Awakening yet, but I just read a book the other day in the book section, and it talks about the descendants of Adam, and it goes over like the 20 descendants or the 20 people that came after Adam, and it just goes over their like lifespan and how they lived hundreds of years old. Like freaking Noah, how many hundreds of years old he lived, how many
Yeah.
hundreds of years. Adam lived freaking 900 years, you know?
yep.
Like, I agree with you, man. It's crazy stuff when you dig into this stuff. I cannot express how important it is for people's growth in this community. I will say this, though, bro, to cap on what you were saying. I think the most painful thing, like, on this journey of just awakening is when you make a mistake that you like know that you could have deliberately avoided if you would have just stuck to what we talked about, self-awareness, discipline, detachment, like knowing that you lost or you did something wrong or something happened to you and it was 110% because of just a like literally a stupid decision. Like it hurts more than a loss. It hurts more. It hurts so bad because you're just like, once you do reflect on it, you're like, what the actual F was I thinking? It's like,
Because it's personal. It's
yeah,
you've betrayed yourself, and
No, but that's where detachment come. You can't identify yourself with a win or a loss. You're not. Your whole self doesn't resume to this action. So that's good. You caught yourself. You saw yourself. It hit a little bit emotionally or in terms of ego, but and then you probably mix that up with personal stuff happening in your life at the current moment. That's just bullying yourself, and you're on a path of always learning something new in terms of finance and awareness. And you would thank yourself in 5 years from today. Yeah, I can't say nothing more. It's a difficult journey, and it's very lonely, and it shakes out your identity, shakes out everything about yourself, what you believe, what you don't believe. But at the end of the day, that's evolution, that's growth, and growth hurts. Otherwise, it wouldn't be growth. So
100%. I'm couldn't have said it
yeah,
better.
welcome in the journey.
Does anybody else want to share before we move on? I feel like we've had a good breakdown kind of the book, so we don't need to continue on it. If nobody else has anything else that they want to add, I feel that was a good discussion. I want to move on and pick the homework for the next week, and then we can just see if anybody has anything else to say before we head into the weekend. This is a good, quick, good book club, I think.
Hey,
Where the,
Cypress.
what's up, brother?
Hey, fella. Uh, First off, I struggle with concentrating on reading, but I got into this book. There's quite a bit of things that I really enjoyed, quite a bit of things that I didn't even closely grasp. Uh, part of the things I think that I was able to grasp is the area where it talked about ice, water, and then oxygen and hydrogen. If you go into that these are elements that are within our universe that we participate in, and with different modes of energy, I'll say, those same elements can possess different physical representations. One being separate elements of oxygen and hydrogen, a combination in a liquid form as water, and then a solid in the form of ice. So trying to relate that to me, okay, where am I in a state of trying to develop a plan? Let's say that our plan is to be financially independent. Okay. What type of energies, what type of educational elements do I need to reach for, grasp, understand, and then apply? That if I do those certain things, if I get 1 oxygen and 2 hydrogen at a certain temperature, it will be water, a liquid. So if I take the elements that I'm learning here and apply those with my energy and my accountability, I am going to be successful. It's not a question of if I can, it's I will. And I really like the book to where, yes, in my personal belief, I feel like I am created in the image of God, to where I'm different from other creations that God did. I do not grasp the part that I am God, I am a God. And the thing is, I can read and take and apply to where I am in my life today to look to see what can I get positive out of this. And if I don't understand, if I'm incorrect, I feel like, me being human, I am fallible, where God's understanding is infallible. So there's some things in the book that I did not quite grasp. There was a lot of things that I did grasp, and I'm able to, I guess, focus down in on what am I thinking? What am I applying? Is it going to better my future? And it doesn't have to happen tomorrow. It could be months or years away. It doesn't really matter. Those same elements will be there when I'm ready to apply them.
It will
Appreciate
better yourself, and then better whatever is around you, your future, your whole life. It will better your heart, your mood, it will bring love to you, which I think people don't do.
That was
Because
really good. That was a really good share.
like you see what you're highlighting right now, there is a theory. A guy was saying replace the word the, the, by God, and everything is God stuff, and you are God stuff. You are in the book they say you are one of the ray of myself. You are, you're not a drop in the ocean. You're the ocean itself in one drop.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very powerful. There's a lot going on within this book that I think is over and beyond what I'm, in my current state, able to grasp.
Yeah, comprehend.
Of
Yeah.
course.
This I related with what you said, Vince, because when I was listening to the audiobook doing my cardio the other day, and I immediately jumped to this section and highlighted it because you were talking about the ice.
Yeah.
And it was when the child brought its mother this piece of ice and asked, "What is this?" And then it went into this whole story of eventually the child finally getting to God and being like, what's the difference between the ice and the water and the blood and da 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 da. But this allegorical like representation of everything in the universe and the I am and how we're all it's crazy. This whole portion of the book was crazy right here. This whole portion, the
Yeah.
chapter is an eye opener right here. So thank you for sharing that, Vince. I completely forgot that this one was even a part of the book because it just goes over your head because it's not just like a quote in this chapter. It's the whole, you got to read the whole chapter to get this portion. But this is the chapter that Vince was just talking about. This started off as a really great piece. I know some of the perspectives that I share may be as challenging for you as they once were for me. But isn't that the beauty of exploration? Every perspective, no matter how unconventional, has something valuable to contribute to it if it's shared. Knowledge is not absolute. It's a living, breathing phenomena, shaped and reshaped over time. The important thing is not always be right, but to always be curious. Explore freely, share boldly, and learn deeply. And don't rely solely on others to validate your discoveries. Stand firm in integrity, even in the face of criticism. Remember that growth always means embracing the humility to admit when we're wrong. Learning from our errors is not a setback, it's the very essence of our progress. So, welcome to the journey. May this space inspire you to ask questions, explore the unknown, and most importantly, to awaken. This is the Library of Awakening.